much indeed for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and I'll do my best to give you something useful. So the first thing to say is that I'm a privileged old white guy. Right, so how did I get where I did today? Well, privilege is a massive part of the story. Class privilege, race privilege, gender privilege. So, you know, I'm ticking all the easy boxes. So I'm really not the person to be telling you about all my wonderful achievements kind of thing, because really I had everything weighted on my side. Maybe being Scottish got in the way a bit, but apart from that, you know, the old line about, you know, English is my second language as I come from Scotland. But so I've had those advantages on my side. And I think I want to start out by talking about some of the difficulties you face if you're interested in getting into academia and getting into a leadership role. So the first is that there's a tiny percentage of those who, no matter how good they are, get their PhD, very tiny percentage become a full professor. It's just the funnel is so tiny that we're talking, I mean, the figures vary, but we're talking single figures percentages. So no matter how good you are and dedicated and do everything right, a tiny percentage will get there. That's just how the structure is. Then the second problem you've got is casualization. So the vast majority of postdocs in the UK, in all fields, are in precarious employment, short-term contracts, 9-month contracts, 10-month contracts, renewal every year, project-based. I mean, so the casualization of the sector is a blight on the sector. You know, so most academics, even in top institutions in the UK, are on insecure contracts, 1-year contract, 2-year contracts, and so on. So it's a fairly grim prospect. And on top of that, you face racism. I mean, there's outright, barefaced, direct racism, personal racism that will be in your face, but also all the structural racism that you will face. So if you have the same 2 CVs, and one of them with a black sounding name and the other with a white sounding name, then the white sounding name person gets the jobs before. I mean, so you've got all of those barriers. So if you want to get into a position of leadership, the first thing is to understand what you're up against. And those barriers are huge. And so you shouldn't put all the emphasis on yourself. You shouldn't give yourself a hard time. You should understand that you're up against it from the start. And for that, I apologize for the structure of our society. It's therefore, it requires people like me to do a lot more, people who are in a position of privilege. And so I'll say a few things about what I'm trying to do. But if I were going to give you one piece of advice about how to advance your academic career, it would be get yourself a mentor, a sponsor. That'll overcome most barriers for you. Because, for instance, if I back my PhD students to get jobs, to get money, to get into various activities, I'm the person that sends the extra email. I'm the person who makes the extra phone call. I'm the person who can make it happen for a significant number of people because I've already got that position. I'm the person who's got the funded projects that I can invite people onto. So really you have to find a mentor, a backer, a senior person as a sponsor, and that will make a massive difference to you. So I haven't really said it much yet about what I do. You may be wondering who I am, what I do. So I'll say a few words about what I do. So as a professor of world politics, what I'm interested in is the connections between the very local all the way up to the global. And the way I work is that I have a Somali social enterprise partner organization called Transparency Solutions, led by Latif Ismail, a former Somali refugee to the UK. I met him as a student here. We work together all the time. Now, I fundamentally lack capability. I lack capacity. I don't speak Somali. But my Somali partners understand the context a lot better than me. I listen to what they've got to say. So the way I work with Somali partners and operate at this international level is that in academia, I'm my own expert. But in operating in an international environment, I know that I have to spend an enormous amount of time just listening. And often just sitting while people have discussions in Somali, and I wait to be involved. So what I try to do is bring together the skills that I have with the skills and capacities that my partners in Somalia have, or Somaliland have, and then work out what we can do together, and we build those agendas together. I also believe and know that people of every social category have a lot to offer. So in my work, what we do co-production, where you do research not only for people, but with people. And so that research will include, so we're working currently at the moment with people in Somalia and Somaliland who are illiterate, who are IDPs, who are refugees, who are minority clan, who are nomadic pastoralists, who are rural agriculturalists, who are disempowered youth, young women, people who are small informal traders, people who are Gabuya, in other words, low caste workers who are barbers and leather workers and steel workers and so on. And we work with them in our projects. And we include it in people who, for instance, they mainly speak the Mai dialect rather than Somali as their first language. And we work with them in our projects, and we go to them on the fundamental belief that they have something to offer, that they know a lot. These are people who have managed to survive in incredibly difficult circumstances. They have a lot to teach people like me. So what we do is we go to people and we ask and say, will you work with us? So for instance, on COVID-19 response, the research we're doing at the moment, what we're asking people is, what have you done in the situation to respond to the crisis? How's it affected your livelihood? How's it affected your life? How's it affected your social category? What do you think of what has been done? What more do you think could be done? What do you think, are you, for instance, scared to go to the hospitals? Why might you be? And what we do is we ask a round of questions and we gather in this knowledge, and then we go back to people and we say, and we actually ask people, is this what you meant? These are the patterns we're seeing, do you agree? And we actually ask them to rate us. We ask them to say, are we asking the right questions? Are we asking the right way? Is there anything you need us to do differently? And if you had to score us out of 5, where would you score us? And what do you think we're doing well? And what do you think we need to improve? And as we go along, therefore, our participants gain confidence in what they're doing. And actually, we learn a huge amount about what's happening in relation to COVID-19 simply by doing this kind of work. So these start from the position that people have a huge amount to offer. It's amazing what you can learn. So I'm not a public health scholar, but I understand wider political processes. And to me, I remember a public health academic said to me about a year ago that public health is public. Everyone owns it. And therefore, it's not just a field for the experts. The experts are part of the story, but everyone should be able to be part of the public health conversation. And so you should be willing to be involved in that conversation. And I just thought that really, I found that very personally quite freeing to become involved in these activities. And so I'm also involved in the Benadir Regional Administration COVID-19 Task Force. And what that does is trying to organize at the 17th district level in Mogadishu, COVID-19 response for nearly 2 million urban poor and IDPs. And what they're doing is surveying the area, doing, believe it or not, 400,000 household level interviews over the next 6 weeks to understand what people's thoughts and perceptions and needs are, to work out how we can respond to that. And I do quite a lot of the research, so we actually have people in the various districts. My research teams get in touch with them and ask them various questions. So we had an amazing story recently where I'm keeping an eye on time, so I know I'm still within my 15 minutes. We had an amazing thing recently where there were some community health centres set up in Mogadishu, and we were kind of expecting them to be swamped. And they had 6 people in them. They had capacity for something like 126 people, and they had 6 people. And we're going, why is no one coming? So we asked our participants, and they told us the reason. It says, well, look, we don't know if we're going to be allowed out again if we go in here. We think the quality of the healthcare is going to be terrible. We don't even know if we can get food. We don't know if we're going to be charged for the services, and we have no money. There's no way we're going to these places. And not only that, they said, a lot of people around us think that once you've had COVID-19, you're permanently infectious, and therefore you're always a threat. So it's not about stigma, it's about fear, the fear around them. And so people's decision not to go to these hospitals was rational. And it's so easy to dismiss people's responses to the public health situation as based on ignorance, illiteracy. I've seen too much research on this situation where researchers have found gaps in people's knowledge and gone, ha, see the public, how stupid are they? They didn't realize that A, B, and C, they haven't got some piece of expert knowledge. But actually to realize that what we found in our work was people had a good fundamental working knowledge, even though there were myths and misconceptions and things that needed to be addressed. But public health will fail if you're not working with the public. And I saw an amazing thing that Aisha did on, I watched the video on vaccinations with the Somali community, where she was talking about why vaccinations matter and how important it was to get vaccinated, and how she dealt with the myths and met with people afterwards to make sure they understood. So that kind of level of trusted engagement shows what can be achieved through research combined with how people actually live their lives and how they think. And I guess for me, I would say that if I had to boil down what leadership is about for me, it was what someone once said to me, is that if you really want to be a leader, you've got to explain to people how to follow. A leader without followers is just a lunatic in a corner talking about how they're a leader. And I've really taken that to heart. And then the next thing I suppose I thought about was, if you want someone to follow something, it can't be just what you do and how you do it. You've got to work out what suits them. So that the thing they're doing that they're comfortable with, because there are different roles in life that people prefer doing. And then it's about ownership. Everyone owns what you do. And people come alive whenever they feel that they own something, whenever they're part of it. And so you start, and when I run projects, I try and concentrate on a number of things. So the projects that work well are the ones that are, first of all, the ethics are right. You're doing it for good, for the right reason. The second thing for me is that it's about precision. You've got to do everything properly and accurately across the project. Then the third thing is coordination across. Everyone needs to be having a voice in making this all work. And then everyone needs to own the big picture, because it's only by interpreting the big picture do they understand. And then finally, put people's names on things. An organizational name isn't the same as everyone's name being on it. And this is where traditional academia falls down, where they think the big name first, right? Well, I get the idea that you're entitled to most credit, but you really need to broaden out the scope of all these things so that everyone truly owns it. And then finally, as the leader, is you have to mean it. when you say you want everyone involved and you really care about what they think, that means actually going to people and making sure they understand that. My time's up. I'll just finish with an example. One of our respondents, who's an illiterate person, an IDP in Mogadishu, asked the question of one of our team, was an idea they had about disposing of face masks going to be in the report? I made sure our team member phoned that person back and told them, yes, absolutely, your line will be in the report. And if we're not prepared to answer that call, then we shouldn't be doing the work. So I hope you found that useful. That's my feedback.
Thank you very much for that. I can personally say that your talk resonated very deeply with myself, and I think it has with many of the individuals within our audience. And one of the questions that actually came back touches on something that you were discussing, which is around the lack of the emphasis, sorry, in terms of when it comes to academia. I mean, you mentioned something like, you mentioned things around, like, if you want to get far, you need to know what you're up against. For instance, right now in this question, it says, I came across a pattern in academia identifying things such as like individuals as indigenous knowledge or dismissing the traditional non-academic routes. Now, do you see a change within the academic discourse regarding this narrative? Is there a critical discussion within academia concerning this indigenization of traditional knowledge?
So I would say that that conversation is there, and there's some amazing academics out there. So the question is finding out who those amazing ones are, and who to connect to, and it's knowing the literature and knowing who the good people are, because there'll be people who are just not interested. But there are plenty of ones, especially those who've got more of an anthropological influence in their work, or who do more engaged public health. People like Aisha are a perfect example. So they are out there, but in a sense, those strands, there'll be people who are just not interested. So it's finding out, in a sense, if you want to know what someone's like, look at what they've done, because that's who they are. They're not going to become something else. So find out what that person is and what they have done. And to be honest, if they've got that track record of doing that kind of thing, you can have faith. Well, I think I clicked on the wrong thing. Someone was asking for contact details. So I'm really happy for anyone on here to contact me. It's like my email, if you Google Eric Herring, it's a stupid name. There's not many of me around. It's very easy to find, but it's eric.herring@bristol.ac.uk.
For those individuals who want, like, of course, like with the speakers agreeing with it, for those individuals who want contact details, we will follow up with emails. The other thing that we wanted to ask you as well was, you explained you have to find the right individuals. I mean, you're someone who, not only did you recognize, for instance, I am where I'm at because of the specific privileges that I've had, but you also took action. Now, considering, like, when we look at academia and we know that the percentage of, say, Black individuals are, like, I think it's less than 1%, especially when it comes to elite positions. How do we ensure that our non-Black counterparts recognize this, but not only recognize it, but actually take coordinated action? Because there's no point in saying one individual recognizing, okay, I have this privilege, I'm going to take action. How do we get others, our peers, to actually take a collective, make a collective, take a collective action? Organize alliances. This is a wonderful time. So the anti-racism in UK universities is exploding. I'm so happy about it. So for instance, within the University of Bristol, we have something called Decolonize UOB. It's huge. It's about 1,000 people in the university already. And we've got about 9 working groups working right across the entire institution. And so organize and find out who are doing those things. Well, you're right, so it's these institutional, this is a wonderful potential moment for institutional change to challenge institutional racism. I'm really quite hopeful.